Tonight, President Trump's AI revolution and pardon-palooza. The president standing side by side with big tech leaders, announcing hundreds of billions in AI investment. Plus, the divide in Washington over Trump's pardons for January 6 defendants. The president pressed over his decision to release violent offenders. Also tonight, Trump's new immigration play. DHS greenlighting ICE agents the ability to enter schools and churches to arrest undocumented immigrants. More than a dozen states and cities now suing the Trump administration over the president's plan to end birthright citizenship. The historic and deadly snowstorm paralyzing the South, snow blanketing beaches in Texas and even Florida's panhandle. Earth cam capturing people sledding down New Orleans' Bourbon Street. Black ice setting tractor trailers colliding into one another. The deep freeze sending temperatures plummeting. Terrifying video as flames engulf a ski resort in Turkey. Dozens killed after more than 200 people were trapped inside. The investigation into what sparked the blaze. Ozempic for Alzheimer's? The breakthrough study finding popular weight loss drugs could be the cure to other conditions and diseases. And walking the inaugural runway, the standout fashion choices. From First Lady Melania Trump's hat to Senator John Fetterman's gym attire. The pointed fashion statements and the designers sewing their way into history. Plus, the major development after the homes of several star athletes were broken into and burglarized. Top story starts right now. And good evening. Tonight, President Trump capping off his first full day in office with a series of announcements, including a major AI investment. That news as we learn more about his wide-ranging executive orders. First, Trump just unveiling a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure deal dubbed Stargate. The president announcing he's working with the CEOs of OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle to create that joint venture. It comes as he faces sharp backlash over his decision to pardon 1,500 people charged in the January 6 Capitol attack. Many of those offenders released overnight and throughout the day. And it was somewhat of a tense start to the day for the president. The president confronted by a bishop on some of his policies during a prayer service. Let's take a listen.
There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
And right now, the president's plan to end birthright citizenship is facing significant headwinds. More than a dozen states and cities, you see them right here, challenging that order in federal court. Mr. Trump's cabinet officials taking shape as Marco Rubio is sworn in as Secretary of State. You see it right here. But could another administration hopeful be facing a new hurdle? An NBC News exclusive on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying senators just received a new detailed allegation against him. The details into those claims in just a moment. We have a lot to get to tonight. We start with NBC Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander.
You have to have legal.
Tonight, the president's facing new backlash for pardoning or commuting the sentences of everyone convicted for their actions on January 6th and those still under investigation.
These are the hostages, approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Including those found guilty of assaulting police officers. 4 years ago, President Trump condemned the violence.
To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
The president's move, something his own vice president had recently argued against.
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned.
Former D.C. police officer Michael Fanone was assaulted during the riot and spent today getting protective orders against those who attacked him.
The American people elected Donald Trump knowing full well that he would pardon my attackers. And so it is the ultimate betrayal.
We pressed the president today.
You would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer,
Sure.
right? So then if I can, among those you pardoned, DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a D.C. police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Was it a pardon? Because we're looking at commutes and we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look at everything. But I can say this. Murderers today are not even charged.
I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your vice president wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail.
Among those being released, the leaders of two far-right groups, the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, and founder of the Oath Keepers militia, Stuart Rhodes, both convicted of seditious conspiracy and other offenses. Rhodes, who'd been sentenced to 18 years in prison, speaking shortly after his release.
I think it's a good day for America that all the wrongs are being undone. So none of these people should have been here in the first place. None of them were ever tried in a fair trial.
Jacob Chansley, known as the QAnon shaman who pleaded guilty to one count of felony obstruction of an official proceeding, posting, "Thank you, President Trump. Now I'm going to buy some mother expletive guns." And some Trump allies who support pardons question if the president's move was too broad.
I think they were absolutely justified. Again, I don't know all the cases. I certainly don't want to pardon any violent actors.
Those pardons among stacks of executive actions already signed by President Trump, including many focused on reversing Biden administration policies, declaring a national energy emergency to repeal regulations on oil drilling and fossil fuels, and scrapping Biden border policies.
We're getting rid of all of the cancer. I call it cancer, the cancer caused by the Biden administration.
Overnight, the president posting the White House is actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration that are not aligned with our vision. Today, the administration firing the head of the Coast Guard, Admiral Linda Fagan, the first woman to lead a branch of the U.S. military relieved of her duties. Tonight, President Trump touting more sweeping changes on his first full day in office, appearing with top tech CEOs at the White House, including Oracle's Larry Ellison, announcing a massive $500 billion investment in AI in the U.S. He says will create 100,000 jobs. Also tonight, President Trump was asked, would he support Elon Musk buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it.
All right, Peter Alexander joins us tonight, live from the White House. Peter, I know the president was asked about the war in Ukraine a few times. He promised he could end it when he came into office. Anything concrete on where he stands on that pledge?
Yeah, he just discussed that during that news conference of sorts in the Roosevelt Room, saying that he is wanting to speak to both Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. He said he is not ruling out additional tariffs against Russia if they don't come to the table soon. And about Ukraine, he also did not rule out possibly sending additional arms to Ukraine. He said, we're going to look into it, Tom.
And then, Peter, we also got news today about one of the key members of Trump's first administration, John Bolton, and his Secret Service detail.
Yeah, that's exactly right. John Bolton obviously served as the national security advisor, one of them during Donald Trump's first term here at the White House. Yesterday, Trump announced that he, Bolton, and other former intelligence officials would be losing their security clearance. And Bolton today told me that he had also just had his Secret Service detail revoked by the president. That detail had been put in place in 2022 after a threat by Iran against Bolton. Donald Trump, I asked him a question about John Bolton tonight, and he described him as a, quote, dumb person. Tom.
Okay, Peter Alexander. Peter, we thank you. Now to the growing backlash tonight over the president's broad actions on immigration. Tonight, a flurry of lawsuits by dozens of states and some cities trying to block Trump's order ending birthright citizenship. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez is covering it all from the White House.
At the National Cathedral today, prayer and politics collided.
The vast majority of immigrants are not criminals.
With President Trump looking on, the bishop delivered an unusually political sermon criticizing his deportation plan.
I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
The president later responding.
I didn't think it was a good service. No. They could do much better.
Tonight, the backlash is growing after his sweeping executive actions on immigration.
If I were to lose my parents due to deportation, my whole world would fall apart.
At least 22 states are already suing over Trump's attempt to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Connecticut's attorney general saying Trump has zero respect for our Constitution, which spells out anyone born in the U.S. is a citizen.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. We have very good grounds. People have wanted to do this for decades.
The president also halting the program that resettles refugees in the U.S., including Afghans fleeing the Taliban.
They haven't received clarifying information, and they're scared that they're going to die.
But Trump won the election after pledging tougher border security. This Republican county commissioner in Chicago supports Trump's immigration crackdown after more than 51,000 migrants arrived there.
Funding is absolutely not sustainable. Between the county, between the city, we've spent nearly $1 billion.
And after labeling cartels foreign terrorist organizations, Trump is not ruling out sending special forces into Mexico.
Stranger things have happened.
Mexico's president said today that her country would defend its sovereignty, but act in a humanitarian way with migrants waiting across the border.
Okay, Gabe joins us also from the White House tonight. Gabe, let's chat a bit more about the suspension of the refugee program you mentioned. Do we have any idea how many Afghans who helped America during the war may be shut out?
Well, I asked that advocate that I was speaking with, Tom, that you saw in that piece, and he said more than 1,600 flights for Afghan refugees will likely be canceled over the next few months, and this could end up impacting thousands more after that. Now, the Trump administration is saying that this executive order is needed to more properly vet refugees, but that advocate says that these refugees are already vetted extensively. Tom?
Okay, Gabe, we thank you for that. We want to stay with President Trump's shift in immigration policies. We want to dig a little deeper into one that's getting a lot of attention tonight, ending birthright citizenship for the children of immigrant parents. That order challenging a Supreme Court case from the late 1800s, the United States versus Wong Kim Ark, who you see here, was born in San Francisco to parents with Chinese citizenship. He was denied re-entry into the U.S. after visiting them in China on the grounds he was not a citizen. The Supreme Court disagreed, citing a clause in the 14th Amendment, a precedent that had not been challenged really up until now. Here to offer some perspective on the Trump order and what it could mean, Lee Galern. He's the deputy director of the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project and a friend of Top Story. And Michelle Canero is an immigration attorney based in South Florida. We thank you both for being here. So, Lee, explain this to our viewers. What, in your opinion, does the Trump administration have wrong here?
Yeah, well, so the 14th Amendment is very clear, and it says if you're born on U.S. soil, you are a citizen. That's always been the understanding, and the Supreme Court made that absolutely clear in the case you just talked about. But not only that, but Congress then went ahead and passed a statute in 1940 and passed it again in 1952 with that understanding. So it's both the order violates the Constitution very clearly, violates a Supreme Court precedent, and violates a statute that Congress has enacted.
But the Trump administration is saying, listen, this historic case, those Chinese nationals actually, they were legal. Their status was legal here in the U.S. when they had that child. What Trump is trying to say, President Trump, according to him, is that people who are undocumented, who are here illegally, if they give birth to a child here, they cannot be a U.S. citizen. Are they wrong on the law?
They are wrong on the law. The Supreme Court did not so limit the decision. The Supreme Court made very clear that anybody, regardless of status, born on U.S. soil, that's always been the understanding. That's been the Justice Department's consistent understanding up till now. This is something that is.
And we're talking for about more than 100 years.
Exactly.
Okay. Michelle, you're an immigration attorney, right? You see cases like this all the time. You deal with these families all the time. You've looked through the executive order. What are some people getting wrong, in your opinion?
Well, I think there's a lot of misinformation about there that this only applies to the children of undocumented individuals. What's really striking is that, as you pointed out, he's claiming that even the children of people who are here lawfully are not considered citizens. And, you know, that raises a bunch of questions. You know, what if they're born here to lawfully present individuals who are here on work visas, who are here as students, who are here even with approved asylum applications, TPS, parole? What is their status? Because they're not conferred a status when they're born, right? So it's really concerning that this isn't just about undocumented individuals. This is also about people who are here legally and have a presumption that if they're present here legally, they're children born on U.S. soil or U.S. citizens.
Michelle, where do you see the courts sort of looking at the case that you're talking about right now, that aspect of it?
I mean, I think the ACLU is correct in that, you know, the Constitution is clear, and we've had Supreme Court decisions on this issue, that anybody who's born on U.S. soil is subject to the jurisdiction thereof and therefore is a U.S. citizen. And I think they're toying with that language is a little bit ironic because they want jurisdiction over these individuals to arrest them and tax them and deport them, but now, you know, not to confer constitutionally constitutional rights. It's interesting.
Lee, your case is not alone, right? We mentioned this at the top of the broadcast here. There's also 23 cases filed by Democratic state AGs and cities trying to block this order. If one of those makes it up to the Supreme Court, would this become a major questions case, right? The Trump order cites a law that mirrors the 14th Amendment in text. Where does it go from there?
Yeah, I think we're going to be hopeful that the Supreme Court's going to do the right thing and adhere to its
you have
precedent.
A conservative majority. You have a Republican House and Senate. Are you worried at all about that
we do.
fight?
I mean, look, I'm never going to say 100% we're going to ever win any case, but I think we are on as strong ground as we possibly can in light of that old Supreme Court case, in light of the consistent interpretation by DOJ. And, and as you pointed out, it's not just the birthright citizenship stuff that's going on. It's a whole slew of executive orders. Asylum has now been ended completely. They got rid of the family separation task force, and you've been covering that for as long as we had that suit going. I mean, there's just multiple things going on.
Michelle, on that issue that the Supreme Court is a majority conservative now, you have both the House and Senate in Republican control. Does that concern someone like you or someone who's looked at this executive order and you feel it's not lawful? Could Trump win this? I mean, I'm sure he had lawyers who agree with him, obviously, who put this together.
I mean, as an individual, I'm concerned. There's uncertainty there, right? I went to law school. I believe in the rule of law, but sometimes it feels a little more shaky nowadays. So I don't know. I agree. I hope that the Supreme Court does the right thing and that we abide by the laws of the land.
Lee, walk us through the timeline. It's going to take effect in 30 days. It's been challenged. So what does that mean?
So we're moving very quickly for a preliminary injunction, and I hope that we are going to get an injunction before the law takes effect, because the last thing we want is for babies to be born on the soil and not be considered citizens, not to
have any country,
right, and not have the benefit of certain medical need, treatment, that kind of stuff that they need. So I mean, hopeful we'll get something before then, but if not, soon thereafter.
Okay, Legal Alert, we thank you so much for being here. Michelle as well, Canero, we thank you so much for joining us from South Florida. We also have some exclusive new reporting tonight on one of President Trump's embattled cabinet nominees, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. NBC News has learned senators have received an affidavit from the sister-in-law of his second wife alleging that Hegseth's behavior made his ex-wife fear for her safety during their marriage. Hegseth is already facing allegations of sexual assault as well as excessive drinking. He has denied all these allegations, and in his divorce, both he and his wife certified that neither of them were the victims of domestic violence. For more on these new revelations, I want to bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin. She was part of our team that broke this story. Walk us through what's in the affidavit, Julie.
Well, I just first want to say this is the first time that anybody is receiving, especially under oath, in an affidavit like this, on the record, outlining these allegations that in this case, Danielle Hegseth, who was the sister-in-law of Pete and Samantha Hegseth, of course, his second wife, alleging that Samantha had confided in her that she had feared for her safety because of Hegseth's conduct, particularly when he was under the influence of alcohol. We already know that he's faced some allegations about that. There are specific allegations in this affidavit, Tom, alleging that Samantha hid in a closet to get away from Hegseth, alleging that she had constructed escape plans with her family and friends that included safe words that she would use that would then trigger those plans to go into place. That has happened, according to Danielle Hegseth, at least once. I should tell you also that Hegseth, Danielle, of course, put in this affidavit that two of the reasons she came forward is because, one, she believes that Hegseth is not qualified for this position, and two, that she received assurances from certain senators that are on the fence, presumably Republicans, because all Democrats are voting against Hegseth, that they would then have the numbers to tank his nomination.
So I do want to ask you about something else, right? Because I understand NBC News reached out to Hegseth's ex-wife. She got back to us. She responded to some of those allegations. So I want you to tell our viewers what happened there. And then what is Trump World saying tonight about this new reporting?
Well, several things here. We've been working on this story for weeks. We had independent reporting about some of these allegations before this affidavit was even coming to light. We were doing our jobs, reaching out to all of the relevant parties, trying to get on the record comment to some of these allegations that, frankly, not only us, but members of the transition team, senators on both sides of the aisle have been hearing for a long time now. Samantha Hegseth had responded to us only after we had gone out for comment to Hegseth's attorney and to the transition team, making them aware of this story, that she is not aware. She does not believe these allegations to be true. After the affidavit came to light and we were about to press send on that reporting, we had attempted follow-up in our conversations with her, Tom, and that's when she said, when we specifically asked her which allegations are not true, that she was never physically abused at the hands of Hegseth and that she will no longer be talking to us or commenting on this going forward. The Trump team has been blowing up our phones all week long. Hegseth's spokespeople calling us names, trying to intimidate us out of running this story. Finally, when we published what was in this signed on-the-record affidavit, they were continuing those same attacks. But Parlatore, who is Hegseth's lawyer, also a Trump transition spokesperson and now administration, of course, telling us that these allegations are false and pointing to Samantha Hegseth's on-the-record denial here.
Okay, Julie Sirkin, a lot of reporting there. Julie, we appreciate it. We do want to turn now to the other major headline we're covering, the deadly snowstorm slamming the South. Rare and dangerous winter weather crippling the region, closing schools and snarling travel. Cold and icy conditions forcing airports across the Gulf Coast to shut down. Several states now declaring emergencies as the storm marches east. Priscilla Thompson is covering the latest.
From Texas all the way down to the Florida Panhandle, an unfamiliar sight, snow and ice.
We're not necessarily used to walking in a winter wonderland here in Florida.
Blizzard-like conditions slamming the Gulf Coast.
It's a little bit like, oh, are we preparing for like just a one-day storm, or are we about to not have water for a week?
3 inches of snow reported in Houston, 6 in Lake Charles, and more than 10 in Rayne, Louisiana. Historic snowfall, creating chaos in the air, with more than 2,200 flights canceled after airports in Georgia, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida shut down or suspended operations. Drivers also wary on the roads.
It's just too dangerous. I don't want my car slipping and sliding.
In Mississippi, this truck appearing to narrowly miss an ambulance. Major highways frozen solid in Louisiana. NBC's George Solis is there.
Highways and roadways around Baton Rouge are closed today out of an abundance of caution, not just concerns of this snowfall, but icing as well.
On the East Coast, frigid temperatures.
It's freezing cold. It's unbearable right now.
The lake effect snow causing Buffalo's mayor to declare a state of emergency. Officials tonight warning that ice will continue to be a threat.
Air temperatures are going to be near or below freezing, and ground temperatures are just above freezing. That snow could melt and then instantly refreeze.
As the storm marches east, residents bracing for more snow, sleet, and freezing.
All right, Priscilla Thompson joins us tonight from Houston. Priscilla, at the end of your piece there, you say residents are bracing for more winter weather. Is much of the South expecting another day of school, road, and airport closures?
Yeah, Tom, Florida is definitely going to be getting a lot of that overnight into tomorrow morning. Already a number of airports and schools there are going to be closed at least until around midday. Now, as for folks here in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, the real concern is not going to be the snowfall anymore, but it is going to be the ice. The idea that the snow overnight, when the temperatures drop, will become ice. But there is a bit of good news, and that is that temperatures tomorrow are not going to be as low as previously expected. They're expected to be above freezing, which means that once the sun comes out, we could see some of that ice starting to melt. So very good news for folks in the South who are looking to thaw out. Tom?
Yep. Priscilla, everyone dealing with the snow, they're not really knowing what to do. We appreciate that. For more on this winter weather mix, I'm joined tonight by NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. You know, Bill, we have some weather geniuses here, and we decided to label this a southeaster. Is that even a term? Did we invent it? Can we coin that?
Maybe we can. I mean, you know, it happens to do with the wind direction, though. So the wind would have to come out of the southeast. We'll call it nor'easter. It's because the wind comes out of the northeast. So we'll look into it, though.
Come on, Bill.
Hey,
southeaster, you can have it.
I know, I'm ruining it for you.
Yeah.
I could have made millions on that T-shirt. But the South is just, they don't know what to do right now. I mean, this is once-in-a-lifetime snow in many areas. I mean, people have never seen this much snow before in New Orleans. 9.8 inches downtown. We have broken the state record in Florida. We've doubled it. Going into the storm, the state record was 4 inches. That's the most Florida had ever seen in any snowstorm. Molino has gotten 8.5 inches of snow. Pensacola Beach has 6 inches of snow that just came in. That breaks their all-time record. Mobilia broke your all-time record in Houston. They were sledding on 4 inches earlier, and it's not done yet. It's coming down in Tallahassee. Tallahassee shut down. They just shut down the airport in Jacksonville, and now that snow is making it through Brunswick, Georgia, heading for Savannah and Charleston tonight. don't travel those areas either. You're looking at the possibility of record snow for your area. Panama City Beach has about 3 inches of snow on the beach, where the waves are meeting the beach and the snow. It's incredible. I've never seen it in my lifetime, and no one down there has either. This is the Savannah area up to Charleston, and here's what we think is going to happen in the remainder of this storm. Savannah, the most snow you've ever had is 2.7 inches. Your forecast is from 3, maybe as high as 6 inches by about midnight. Same for Myrtle Beach and Charleston. You get the idea, Tom. This is, I know it's, we had to be extremely cold to have an event like this, and that's just, just the timing of this, the two things that met up. Louisiana had a hurricane 132 days ago, and here they are with their biggest snowstorm.
Yeah, Bill, and I wanted to show our viewers these live shots out in New Orleans because I've lived there, I've traveled, I've never seen this. This is Bourbon Street. It looks like it could be, Vail or some kind of mountain town. This is wild. I mean, to see that much snow, and it's in people's backyards as well. People aren't ready for this. I wonder about snow plows and different things like that. But pretty incredible, huh, Bill?
There was a snowball fight on this camera earlier today, too. I mean, this is, so far this has been kind of fun. People are in their homes. The biggest question is, with it being so cold, how long is it going to take for the roads to get back up? How long is it going to take for the schools to go back in session? Because this Arctic blast is going to slowly get better, Tom, but not fast enough.
All right, Bill. We also know that we can see there behind you. You're tracking those Santa Ana winds again, which is not a good sign for our friends out in California. Yeah, last night they gusted up to 80. We didn't have any new big fires for them, but it's still kind of windy, still 44, 49. This is Ventura County. This is, northern L.A. County, just outside of the downtown area. We do have another Santa Ana wind event coming tomorrow night into early tomorrow morning. Notice gusts 59, 58. So dangerous fire conditions, Tom, will come back. But rain is in the forecast at the end of this week. So, we're really hoping we could at least take a little bite off of how dry it is. It's not going to end the conditions, but we'll take anything we can get. Bill Cairns for us tonight. Bill, we thank you for that. Still ahead, the new details after a Border Patrol agent is shot and killed. A deadly shootout on a Vermont highway right near the Canadian border. What we're learning about those involved. Plus a potential breakthrough after a string of burglaries targeting NFL players. The people now in police custody and what was found in their possession. Plus a dramatic video as a yacht and a drawbridge collide. The boat's mast left completely destroyed. We'll explain what happened here. We're back now with an update on the investigation to a series of high-profile burglaries, including one targeting the home of Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. Authorities saying 4 Chilean nationals may be behind the crimes. Here's Maggie Vespa with the details.
Tonight, after months of brazen burglaries at the homes of pro athletes, a possible break in the case of Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. Ohio's Attorney General confirming 4 Chilean nationals today were indicted on charges of participating in a criminal gang and engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity. Court documents stating authorities found in their SUV an old LSU shirt and Bengals hat believed to be stolen from a December burglary, seemingly referring to the one at Burrow's home, though he was not named and authorities declined to give more details. The documents state the men had been under surveillance, and the arrests came amid an ongoing investigation involving burglaries of multi-million-dollar homes in multiple states. Authorities not specifying whether that refers to break-ins at the homes of other pro athletes, including Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, all during games, often on the road. Burrow tonight not returning NBC News' request for comment, but telling reporters last month,
We live a public life. Doesn't make it any easier to deal with.
A senior U.S. official briefed on the matter, saying the FBI warned against athletes displaying valuables on social media, adding the burglaries are likely driven by South American organized theft groups. Orange County, California District Attorney Todd Spitzer estimating authorities there have made roughly 100 arrests in the last 2 years.
These are incredibly sophisticated jobs.
They use Wi-Fi jammers, police scanner jammers. They survey our homes, and they know exactly what they're doing.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
Okay, when we come back, the new move to crack down on illegal immigration. ICE now authorized to make arrests in schools, hospitals, and in churches as they prepare to carry out mass deportations. Our team got an exclusive look inside the planes they will use to do that. That's next. Okay, we are back now with Top Stories news feed, starting with the U.S. border fatality. The U.S. border agent fatally shot following a traffic stop in Vermont. The FBI is saying that agent was killed in a shootout on the I-91 near the Canadian border. Another person was killed. They have been identified by Homeland Security as a German national here on a visa. A third person was also hurt. No word yet on what led to the shooting, but the FBI says they are working with U.S. Border Patrol to investigate. A Nevada judge upholding the murder charge for the man who was accused of killing rapper Tupac Shakur. The Clark County judge denying Dwayne Davis's argument he had been provided an immunity deal in the case, saying there was never any proof or offer of one. Lawyers for Davis say they may appeal the decision to the Supreme Court. Davis is the only suspect ever prosecuted in the 1996 murder of the West Coast rapper, but has pleaded not guilty. And wild video out of Florida showing the moment a yacht crashes into a drawbridge. You see the drawbridge coming down in Pompano Beach when it suddenly strikes the mast of that sailing yacht. The bridge freezing to a halt as the yacht continues forward, but its mast was destroyed. No word yet on any injuries, and it's unclear how this happened. And a fumble from Philadelphia's Mayor Sherelle Parker now going viral. Take a close listen of how she spells Eagles.
Let me hear you all say E-L-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
She spelled something there. I'm not sure what it was. The mayor attempting to spell out the name of the city's football team at a news conference just before they were set to take on the Rams. The mayor poking fun at herself, saying nobody's perfect. And the flub yesterday, the Eagles won that game, though, and will take on the Washington Commanders this Sunday. Okay, next tonight to those major immigration policy changes we've been following throughout the show. The Department of Homeland Security now clearing the way for ICE to arrest people inside schools, hospitals, daycare centers, places that were once considered off limits. NBC's Julia Ainsley has that new reporting and this exclusive look at the planes ICE is planning to use to carry out the mass deportations that Trump has called for.
President Trump has promised to deport millions of immigrants to their home countries. And today, the Department of Homeland Security announced it is widening the net. A new policy gives ICE agents the green light to conduct enforcement operations in schools, churches, playgrounds, and daycare centers. Those locations used to be off limits. Now, ICE can look for people in those places to deport. The mayor of Denver telling Top Story last night, those sensitive areas are a big concern for his city.
Churches, schools, hospitals, they've long been no-go locations for ICE because to run a safe city, we have to have a hospital everyone can go to if they're in an emergency without worrying about getting deported. We have to have kids be able to go to school without worrying about their status or their parents' status. And we're worried about these protected populations.
Last week, NBC News got an up-close view of what a typical deportation flight looks like and a step-by-step description of the entire journey from ICE officials who explained the complicated and expensive process. First, it starts with an arrest by ICE agents. Then, immigrants are taken to be detained at more than 100 local ICE facilities. From there, they may have a chance to go before a judge and plead their case. Typically, this process has taken weeks if it's fast-tracked, or if not, it has even taken years. If a judge agrees that the person should be deported, ICE will fly them to one of 4 staging areas in San Antonio, Alexandria, Louisiana, Mesa, Arizona, or Harlingen, Texas, where we went and saw migrants on their way from detention to the tarmac.
ICE has about 10 planes just like this that they can use to deport migrants.
This is the end of the journey for them.
Miguel Vergara is one of the field office directors for ICE.
Every individual that we boarded in the plane had their day before an immigration judge. Their case was heard. They had their due process. Every possible remedy that could have been applied or it was exhausted. And it was determined by an immigration judge that they don't have a right to remain in the United States, and that's why they're here today.
Parents who have had children in the United States will have to decide if their children are deported with them or left behind. Although it looks like any other commercial plane, migrants are only allowed to bring 1 bag of belongings weighing 40 pounds or less. There are between 15 to 20 guards on board, and everyone is shackled, except for children and parents traveling with kids.
In the last year, ICE was able to remove over 270,000 migrants, many of those on planes just like this. But if the Trump administration wants to deport more migrants, they're going to have to spend more money, not just on planes like these, but on the pilots, the staff, and the detention space to hold migrants before they board these planes. So what will happen to these people when they land in Honduras? How will they get back to their homes?
The respective government has some assistance, and oftentimes, like here in the United States, there are non-government organizations who wait at the airport and offer assistance to help them get to where they need to go.
Once they land, they'll be interviewed by local officials and given a medical evaluation before being transported to their hometowns. Outgoing ICE Director P.J. Lechleitner has told us to reach the deportation goals Trump has cited, ICE will need a lot more money.
Trump thinks he could deport 1 million in a year. Is that feasible?
It's going to take a lot more money, and it's going to take a lot more time, a lot of time throughout the year. I'm not going to speak for the new administration and how they're going to do it. I wish them well, and I hope they get a lot of resources.
11 years ago, there were protesters at the White House who called Obama the deporter-in-chief. They thought the number of deportations had gone too high. Now you have the majority of Americans saying they're okay with mass deportations. Why do you think there was that shift in just 11 years?
I'm not good at reading the tea leaves and what's important to people or not, but clearly there's the will now, and they, a lot of Americans they're supportive as the polls lay out, and with more resources and more people, we can do more.
And with that, Julia Ainsley joins us tonight from Washington. So, Julia, you spoke to Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, briefly today. What can you tell our viewers about the administration's plans to start carrying out those large-scale deportation operations?
That's right, Tom. When I saw Homan, I was asking him about recent remarks he's made where he says that these will be targeted enforcement actions, and he stayed away from the word raids. I was trying to figure out if actually they're trying to temper the expectations of what the American people can see in terms of mass deportations. What he told me is the major difference is that they are putting more manpower toward the mission of deportations. In other words, more ICE agents to go around the country and make those arrests. And of course, with the new policy today that says they can basically make these arrests anywhere, he expects those numbers to increase. But I thought that was telling that he didn't say there would soon be neighborhood sweeps or large-scale raids. Instead, he said, we're putting more people towards that mission.
Julia Ainsley for us. Julia, we thank you for that. Now to top stories, Global Watch, and a check of what else is happening around the world. We start with that massive fire at a ski resort in northwestern Turkey. Look at this. Officials say the fire broke out at the 12-story hotel that was hosting more than 230 guests. So far, more than 75 people are dead. The resort is located less than 200 miles east of Istanbul. Authorities believe the fire began on the hotel's restaurant floor. 9 people have been detained as part of the investigation. Okay, a powerful earthquake has struck southern Taiwan. New video showing rescue teams working to save residents trapped in rubble after a 6.4 magnitude quake struck their building. The quake hit about 160 miles from the capital of Taipei. Dozens were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. No deaths so far have been reported. And an update tonight on Prince Harry's legal battle against the publisher of the British tabloid The Sun. According to our partners at Sky News, the High Court is hearing Prince Harry and the Sun's publisher are, quote, very close to reaching a settlement. The trial, which was set to begin today, has been delayed after both sides requested a postponement until tomorrow. Prince Harry filed the suit back in 2019, accusing the Rupert Murdoch-owned publisher of unlawful information gathering. News Group Newspapers has denied the allegations. Okay, we turn now to Israel, where fresh violence erupted in the West Bank hours after President Trump took office. It's an early test for the new administration's tough talk on foreign policy. NBC's Raf Sanchez has this report tonight from Tel Aviv.
Tonight, even as the fragile ceasefire holds in Gaza, violence is surging in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces storming into the city of Jenin. Armored bulldozers joining ground troops. Prime Minister Netanyahu calling the operation Iron Wall and says his forces are rooting out terrorism. But a Palestinian human rights group says Israeli troops also fired on civilians. This man narrowly escaping the bullets flying around him. While Fadi Saadi says his brother was killed by a sniper while out buying bread. The IDF didn't respond to our request for comment, but says it tries to avoid civilian casualties. The Israeli raid launched just hours after President Trump took the stage at a Washington rally flanked by the families of hostages.
We never stopped praying for you.
One of his first official acts, revoking sanctions the Biden administration imposed on extremist Israeli settlers in the West Bank. That executive order signed as dozens of settlers attacked Palestinian homes, setting some on fire, according to Israel's military. The settlers furious over the release of around 90 Palestinian prisoners, mostly women and children, in exchange for 3 Israeli hostages freed Sunday. Tonight, a new image of one of them, Emily Damari, defiantly showing the 2 fingers she lost on October 7th. Romy Gonen telling her father, "Daddy, I came back alive." Doctors say all 3 seem to be in good health, given the 471 days of captivity they endured. But they face a long road to recovery ahead.
We know that they're going to be overwhelmed.
We got an exclusive look inside Bellinson Schneider, a Tel Aviv hospital preparing to receive the next group of freed hostages.
All of the rooms are prepared for a returnee and a family member if they would want them in.
The task ahead, figuring out how to treat hostages who spent 15 months in captivity.
There's a full book written in preparation for this and how to refeed patients that haven't been fed, haven't seen sunlight, no vitamin D.
How do you feel when you think about the hostages coming back to rooms like this?
Oh my God, I can't even. You just said that sentence and I'm all in goosebumps.
And Tom, Israel's top general announcing his resignation tonight, saying he takes responsibility for the military's failure to stop the October 7th attack. That is adding to pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been resisting calls for a 9/11 commission-style investigation into mistakes made by Israel's generals, its intelligence chiefs, and its elected leaders. Tom?
Raf, we appreciate that update out of the Middle East. We thank you for that. Coming up, can drugs like Ozempic help with Alzheimer's and schizophrenia? The sweeping new study showing major new health benefits linked to the popular weight loss drugs. But do the potential risks outweigh the rewards? We sit down with an expert next. We are back now with Top Stories Health Check. And the new study showing popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy may have more health benefits than previously thought. Researchers in the Nature Medicine journal say their research shows the drugs help with dozens more conditions than just obesity, including lowering the risk of everything from infection and drug abuse to disorders like schizophrenia and Alzheimer's. The drugs were found to also improve heart health in some patients. However, the study did find these medications also increase the risk of certain conditions as well. Some more common side effects like nausea and vomiting, which the makers of Ozempic and Wegovy mention online as side effects, but also things like joint pain, low blood pressure, and potentially deadly inflammation of the pancreas. For more on all these new findings, I want to bring in Dr. Caroline Messer. She's an endocrinologist and founder of Well by Messer, a wellness clinic here in New York City. Dr. Messer, thanks so much for coming back to Top Story. We appreciate it. I know you're familiar with the study. You told me you read it yesterday. So kind of give us the top lines besides the ones we mentioned here.
So it was over 2 million patients.
2 million patients?
2 million
It's a
patients.
massive study.
Massive.
Okay.
Yeah, bigger than anything else I've seen. That was retrospective. Done at the VA. I have a particular interest in VA trials because my dad is a clinical researcher at the VA. He's a gastroenterologist. And it's really an incredible trial. So we've known about secondary benefits of these medications for a long time, but decreasing the risk of schizophrenia, seizures, these are really novel findings.
So talk to me about this. I mean, because we understand, listen, you lose weight, obviously your heart's going to feel better, you're going to feel better, you're going to have more energy. How would it tie into some of these things that are affecting our brain?
Right. So twofold. First of all, it works in the reward center. So for a lot of conditions, addiction, it's actually decreasing the effect of reward. So it kind of disconnects an action from a feeling of reward, but also it's anti-inflammatory. So we know these medications cross what's called the blood-brain barrier, and there they decrease inflammation in the neurons, in the nerves in the brain.
And what does that mean? What would that do? That leads to things like dementia?
Right. So inflammation in the brain is the leading cause of dementia, but probably also the leading cause of seizures, maybe MS, maybe schizophrenia. And so that's why we're finding all these secondary benefits. It's the same reason that we're seeing decreased cardiovascular risk.
Last time you were on, I'm pretty sure we went over this, but I want to ask you again to see if there's been any change. The insurance companies cover this when it deals with diabetes and weight loss. Is it covering it now for other things yet?
No, but hopefully, since it's now been FDA approved for sleep apnea, it usually isn't too long before they start covering it for sleep apnea.
Okay. We mentioned some of the side effects of this study, and there's been some other side effects now that have come out as well in the study. What should people be careful about and be worried about?
I mean, I thought it was funny that we mentioned potentially deadly inflammation of the pancreas. It sounds like a lot more dangerous than it is. So any type of gallstone can trigger pancreatitis. And in all of these trials, the pancreatitis, which is the inflammation of the pancreas, was caused by gallstones. Any type of weight loss, doesn't matter what the modality is, can cause gallstones. So it's not really, some mysterious inflammation of the pancreas. It's caused by gallstones.
Well, there's been a lot of research, right? Maybe not enough, but there's been a lot of research on Ozempic and Wegovy. What can we say at this point? What can the medical community say at this point?
I think we can clearly say that the benefits outweigh the risks, that there's so many potential advantages. I mean, in just a 3.5-year trial, they saw a 12% decrease in Alzheimer's. We don't have any other medications like that. So yes, you may become dehydrated. That can potentially affect the kidney. You may become a little dizzy. Your blood pressure may drop low because you're dehydrated or losing weight. But there are so many potential benefits that most doctors should be having a very low threshold to prescribe.
Dr. Messer, we thank you for coming back to Top Story.
Of course.
Always great to chat with you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to switch gears a little bit. The looks that still have everyone talking, from the First Lady's hat to Senator John Fetterman's shorts. We'll break down the inauguration fashion and what it will reveal about changing attitudes towards the Trump family. That's all next. Stay with us. Finally tonight, some of the most talked about moments from yesterday's historic inauguration were the wardrobe choices, from hats to shorts to an ode to Audrey Hepburn. NBC's Valerie Castro has it all tonight.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
As the nation's leaders gathered to swear in a new president,
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
all eyes were on the Trump family, dressed to the nines in the Capitol Rotunda. But it was the wide-brimmed hat of model-turned-First Lady Melania Trump that stole the show.
I mean, the wind is blowing like crazy, and with the hat that she's wearing, she almost blew away. We almost lost off her.
While hats aren't unusual accessories for First Ladies, the near-full coverage of her face and the commitment to wearing it indoors was a breach from the norm. At one point, the wide circumference of the Eric Javits creation even preventing President Trump from kissing his wife on the cheek.
Mrs. Trump is a different kind of First Lady, right? And that hat really seemed to somehow encapsulate the fact that she wasn't necessarily going to be there for everybody.
The other women in the Trump family going all out for the inaugural balls. Ivanka Trump in a white Givenchy dress, an ode to Audrey Hepburn's gown in the movie Sabrina.
Everyone is essentially costumed for their new role, right? First Lady, President, Vice President, Second Lady. So, it kind of makes sense that you would pick an actual costume. But it did stand out to me.
But some other looks sparked debate on social media. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos' fiancée, Lauren Sanchez, stepping out in a low-cut blazer and lacy top, while Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman donned a hoodie, shorts, and sneakers to the swearing-in ceremony.
So help me God.
Second Lady Usha Vance taking a more traditional route, wearing a pink cashmere coat and dress by Oscar de la Renta, a fashion staple for both Democrats and Republicans. This year's inaugural fashion marking a drastic change in attitude towards the Trump family. After Trump's first inauguration in 2017, Ralph Lauren faced backlash and even a boycott when Melania wore a dress and jacket by the designer. And during Trump's first term, many top fashion designers actually refused to dress the First Lady. But now, the fashion industry seeming to embrace the First family as they return to power.
And I'm sure that they feel like there's some, comfort in numbers, right? Like it's happening in the financial industry, it's happening in the technology industry. So, why shouldn't it happen in fashion?
Valerie Castro, NBC News.
We thank Valerie for that story, and we thank you for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas, back in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.